iPhone 13 Pro is here, so let's unbox it and see what all things come inside this super slim packaging. Now, by seeing this box, you can probably tell that the box is basically the same as last year's phone. We get some little pull stickers here with no outer plastic wrap this time around. Apple took it away to reduce waste, but sliding off the lid of the box, of course, the first thing we get to see is the new iPhone 13 Pro itself, and this is a much lighter and brighter blue finish versus the last year's. It's called the Sierra Blue, and you can also get the iPhone 13 Pro in silver, gold, and graphite finishes too. As far as what else is included in the box, well, not a whole lot obviously. You still get a Lightning to USB-C cable and a small packet of stuff that includes instruction, a SIM injectory tool, and a single Apple sticker. But that's all. Apple continues to offer just the bare minimum inside the box. So with all that stuff out of the way, here is the new iPhone 13 Pro. Once again, all set up and ready to go. And obviously, at least at first glance, the newest iPhone looks nearly identical to last year's 12 Pro. But there are a number of new features, new changes, and also add-ons that might make it worth the upgrade. Now, for startup, the front 6.1-inch display is the same size as last year's, but you might be able to tell that Apple reduced the size of that notch up top for the very first time. It's now about 20% smaller, mostly just not as wide across. It's redesigned a little bit, and as well as with a new slight different speaker grill located more towards the top edge, and you can see the difference here with the side-by-side comparison with the iPhone 12 Pro. Not a huge change obviously, whole rest of the front is pretty much the same, though, and around back we do get that identical matte glass and stainless steel frame that we have seen before. Like I mentioned, the new Sierra Blue finish is quite a bit different than last year's Pacific Blue finish, but mostly everything else, the fit, finish, and the form factor remains the same. You might be able to tell though that while the camera module is once again that big triple lens setup, its overall size has been increased, so you can't put your iPhone 12 Pro case on the iPhone 13 Pro. So while the basic design and form factor remain relatively close to last year's, let's now talk about the things that have been changed with the new iPhone 13 Pro. And that starts with the display. The 6.1-inch screen is once again Apple's Super Retina XDR OLED panel with 2535 by 1170 resolution and crams in some 460 pixels per inch. But it gets two important upgrades this year. The first is it gets much brighter, 1000 nits versus 800 on last year's iPhone 12. Beyond that, though, the real big new addition is the ProMotion. Apple has added a dynamic 120Hz display to the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max, and this is the first high refresh rate screen offered on an iPhone. With this, you are going to notice a snappier, more responsive experience with every touch, tap, and swipe, and the refresh rate will change automatically based on apps, animation, and other conditions. You might be able to see a difference side by side with the iPhone 12 Pro from last year's here. But I think when you actually get it in your hands and start using it, you will really experience that difference. So inside the iPhone 13 Pro, we get of course the latest and the greatest Apple chipset, their new A15 Bionic processor, which makes this phone along with all the new iPhone 13s the fastest and most powerful iPhone to the date. You also get 128 gigs of internal storage now to start twice the capacity for the same price. Probably the most talked about upgrade overall with the iPhone 13 Pro though this year is with the cameras, both the hardware wise and with the real world shooting capabilities. Starting with the specs, the iPhone 13 Pro offers what Apple calls all new ultra wide, wide and telephoto lens setup. It's the same basic spec 12 megapixel main lens, 12 megapixel telephoto lens and 12 megapixel ultra wide lens. But the sensors this time around are larger and upgraded than ever across the board, and there are a handful of new capabilities as well as macro photography with the new ultra wide camera is now an option, so you can shoot super close up pictures and that will automatically pop up when you are a few centimeters away from a subject. There's also a new photographic profiles made which allows you to add certain look to your pictures, and Apple states that this isn't just a filter but it's a sort of similar idea. There's also much more improved low light performance across the board as well, so night mode shots should be sharper with less noise and look overall better no matter what lens you are shooting with. And for the video, Apple has added cinematic mode, basically a portrait mode for video, which can also automatically adjust focus based on the subject of a scene. And Apple also added the ProRes as a shooting option on the iPhone 13 Pro this year. Though you are limited to 1080 resolution with this shooting mode unless you get the 1TB device, so keep that in mind. One other thing to mention, the camera features and the capabilities this year are same across the iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max for the first time, and there is no other difference between those two devices this year besides their size. So at last, the new iPhone 13 Pro does bring a handful of new features like 120Hz display, ProMotion, smaller notch, camera upgrades, and cherry on top is that we get a better battery life in every iPhone 13 model this time around. So I think it's worth upgrading to iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max, but at the same time it's not that worth to upgrade to an iPhone 13 or 13 mini, as they don't get any big updates. They are just quite similar to the iPhone 12 and 12 mini last year's. So I think 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max are better values than the 13 and 13 mini. So again, at last I'm doing the giveaway of the iPhone 13 Pro. So rules for entering the giveaway are in the description, so do check that out. And my name is Sanket, this is Creative Innovative, and I will see you guys in the next one.